Right. So we at the point here where we just defined the different modes of delivery: online, face-to-face, blended, synchronous, asynchronous. So there are 5 modes of delivery. And then we looked at some of the different avenues or things that you would need, or components, or you can call them pillars if you like, in delivering a blended or online course or activity. We also mentioned the need for policies to make these definitions very clear and to provide guidance in executing a blended course or a blended or online course or programs. Yeah. We also looked at some different activities, course activities, such as quizzes, video presentations, games. I don't think anybody mentioned that. And these things can work also as assessment. Yeah, assessments, whether it's for participation or if it's in the case of a quiz, it can be a formal form of assessment. I was also saying that, given the example where we had over here, that instead of a lecturer, where instead of creating the video, the animated presentations for herself, she instructed students to create animated presentations on different topics. They were group projects. And the artifacts that these students came up with, they were quite impressive. And added to that, she had a sort of journal reflection. And many of the students reported learning different skills, not just technical skills, but of course, collaborative skills, communication skills. Because after they presented, they worked online to create their animated presentations. And then in the face-to-face class, they showed them to the entire class and entertain questions thereafter. Yeah, so it was really, really fun for them. It was really enlightening for them, insightful for them, and they develop, of course, relationships with each other in terms of that collaborative relationship. And they had this online animated presentation that they could keep forever and even use it as artifacts to illustrate their skills, let's say in the world of work. Yeah. So there's that. And even if you're teaching in an online or blended context, you're going to need some form of some conferencing platform, such as Zoom, like what we're using now. Yeah. So it is important that even with all the activities we just mentioned, that there's alignment. Alignment is key or tantamount. What do I mean by alignment? Anybody? Abigail, do you want to take a shot at it? What do I mean by alignment, or what does this graphic show or is trying to tell us? Alicia, Abigail, Ayana, all those names start with A, just saying. Everson, anybody. What do you gather from this particular graphic?
That everything you put into your structure has to ultimately connect and thus allow for appropriate alignment that will hopefully allow you to meet your objectives.
Correct. Thank you so much for that, Stephanie. You're absolutely right. Sergio, I see you have your hand raised. Go right ahead, please.
Well, actually, Stephanie said what I was just going to say.
Not
And
a problem at all.
this is very important, Justin. It's a good thing you're bringing this up, because if you're designing your courses and stuff is scattered all over the place and there's no alignment, then there's no cohesion and students cannot follow the stuff properly. So this is very important what you're bringing up here.
It is.
So I like to hear how you go further into this, because we've been looking at some of this stuff here in terms of quality assurance.
Right.
And so I'm glad that you're bringing this up. So I'll be quiet as you go along. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Definitely appreciate it. And you guys hit the nail on the head. Alignment is really where your learning outcomes, and you really want to start with the learning outcomes, to be quite honest. There's a backward design approach, of course, you can't do that. But usually it's a little more strongly aligned when you start at least with the learning goals and learning outcomes or objectives. Why? Because you establish exactly what you intend to do, what you want to accomplish by the end of this course. So a learning outcome might be, for example, by the end of this course, students will be able to define the roti making process. I'm just using that because I saw it in the quiz, in the chat with Genevieve and Roti. Define the roti making process, or explain the process involved in buying high quality roti, right? And that's the learning outcome. So explain the process in purchasing high quality roti. Yeah, that's the learning outcome. How do we know, how will that learning outcome, what activity or what will students have to do to achieve that learning outcome? So Genevieve, if I were to ask you, that is your learning outcome, explain the process in purchasing high quality roti. What do you think would be a good activity or assessment for you to accomplish, to accomplish that learning outcome?
I have a disclaimer, Justin. I cannot make roti.
No, to purchase. So in other words, your experience. So
Okay.
yeah, if you explain the process in purchasing high quality roti.
You're looking at reputation of outlets. You're looking at hygiene, you're looking at cost, and then you just, I think it's not that difficult to, Justin. I would just tell my students, wear wings on by their roti.
Most definitely, right? I was just using it as an example.
Right.
But you're not going to buy roti from any and everywhere, right?
No, not at all.
Right. So you said not at all. Because all rotis aren't the same.
Nope.
So an activity or learning activity or an assessment I might give Genevieve to do would be to create a graphic. Yes, it might be okay. You could take a normal traditional approach to write an essay about it. But a more innovative way would be to create a graphic identifying the steps, let's say a timeline even, or a step-by-step process, or even if you want to take it a step further, create a tutorial video on what you look for in purchasing a high quality roti. Yeah. It might be to go, yeah, well, you would know, right? Stephen, I see you have your hand up. Go right ahead, please.
Doc, I was wondering if this triangular alignment isn't missing something like the methodology that you're using.
Sorry?
I'm saying that I'm looking at your triangular alignments, and I'm wondering if it's not missing something that needs to be aligned with it to the methodology. No?
Right. So the methodology in this case would be incorporated in the teaching and learning activities. Yeah, and to an extent in the assessment, feedback and assessment. And there's another half of this slide, or another part that I'll show in just a bit, that would kind of bring it all together. But these are the main pillars that you want to focus on once you have your learning outcome. If the learning outcome is to explain the process in purchasing high quality roti, then your learning activity, for example, I see in the chat someone said a field trip, right? A field trip. In terms of you going with your students to show them different roti outlets. I can't believe you're doing this about roti, but yeah, roti outlets. And what to look for in a good roti, right? And then of course the feedback or assessment strategy might be something like a journal reflection, or for them to create a video or some sort of, to do something, yeah? Now, the thing about learning outcomes, they must be measurable. What do I mean by measurable? Anybody? Your learning outcome. Now, I didn't plan to go in this direction, but as it was mentioned, this is something that is very important, especially in your context. What do I mean when I say your learning outcome must be measurable? You can take a guess, anybody.
There must be some means to determine whether the participants obtained the knowledge that you intended to give them.
Nice, very good, Ayana. Thank you so much for that. Alicia said it's smart, good. It can be assessed, right? Good. You know what's a good litmus test, almost, if you want to call it that? To say that it must be measurable, meaning that it must be an observable form of behavior. Meaning that that students have to demonstrate something or do something. And that's why the verb is always important, the kind of verb that you use. So you don't want to have something like a learning outcome that has something like demonstrate knowledge of, or students will be able to appreciate, or students will be able to understand X, Y, and Z. Why would that not be measurable?
I guess they're too broad, Doc.
They're too broad, or they're too abstract to be measurable.
Abstract, yeah.
Because how are you going to measure understanding? How are you going to define, or if you have something like students will be able to demonstrate understanding, or students will be able to appreciate? It's abstract. So you want something that is observable, meaning that students must be able to do something. So if it is to create a presentation, if it is to do a group project and submit whatever that might be, that is what you want students to do in alignment with your learning outcome. Yeah. So right in that whole roti context, we looked at the learning outcome, which is to explain the process in purchasing a high quality roti. And then we looked at teaching activities, or teaching and learning activities, in other words, teaching strategies, which some persons included a field trip. And then we mentioned feedback and assessment, which would be for them to submit a video presentation or on a journal, which can be an e-journal as well. All right, because it is a blended or online context. Yeah. So in order to have, right, Mary said units to be measurable. Right. So that's a good way of saying it to an extent, in that it's an observable form of behavior. So in order for you to have this, it's important that you plan. You must plan your instruction. You must plan your lesson, so that everything connects like the parts of a puzzle. So the learning outcome must connect with the teaching activities and so on. And it must connect with the feedback and assessment activities, and it must all make sense. Yeah. So as someone said, students can follow. So any questions on that, by the way? Stephen, I don't know if you want to chime in with anything that may have been, as you mentioned, something missing. I see Abigail. Yes, go ahead, Abigail.
I have a question.
Sure.
Looking at this whole image, we have the learning objectives, we have the teaching and learning activities, and then we have the feedback. How does your looking at your audience come into play? I say that to say that okay, let's say the audience here at HLSCC, okay, it is primarily students who just leave high school, young people. What if we in a situation where the audience is primarily maybe older person? Does this here apply to generally, or it have to differ in terms of in terms of how it's set up, basically?
Yeah, Abigail, that's an excellent question. Excellent question. You don't know how timely that is as well.
Okay.
Excuse me. It's very, very timely, because that's what we're going to go into next. But I'm glad that you raised that question, that you made that point, because that is part of the planning as well. Yeah. So in part of your planning, very often we think planning is just, okay, the learning outcomes, the three things we have here, and maybe the content or the modules in your particular course or lesson. If it's a lesson, of course, topics. But part of it is what we often call your instructional context. Your instructional context includes the students you're teaching. Yeah. If it's mature students, or if they are students who just came out of high school, if they are, so you have age, you have whether it's male or female and other social sociocultural factors. And then of course you have the policy. We just mentioned, we talked about policies and so on. Then we looked at another thing that would inform your instructional context would be logistics and resources and technological infrastructure when it comes to online and blended class contexts. You know, so these are things that you want to consider and build into your lesson plan. And that's why in this next slide we have describing your instructional context. All right, so I'm so happy that you mentioned that. And let me just post this link for you. Let me just get that link. And okay, let me just get it otherwise. So we have this link here, and I want you to describe your teaching context. All right. Let me just post it in the chat.
This is for me personally.
So I'm going to ask you to describe your teaching context. All right. And let me just bring up the page so we see what it looks like.
Is this for me personally?
Sorry?
Is this for me personally, or this is for the
everyone?
audience?
For everyone. Sorry,
Oh,
for
okay,
everyone.
yes,
It's in the chat.
okay.
Yeah. So everyone, just click on that link, and it should take you to this particular wall, or wall that looks like this. And I want you to describe your teaching or instructional context. Consider the age, consider the prior knowledge even of your students. So for example, what preconceived notions they may have, what strengths and weaknesses you tend to observe, what skills you may observe in them when they come into your course, even the attitudes, yeah? So how would you describe the students that come into your course or teaching context? So I see some persons are typing already. Good, good, good. Right, and as much as you could, whether it's, you know, they might be very imaginative, they might have, they don't like working in groups, some of them. And the reason that you would see all of this, all of the other responses, because I use this wall very frequently, because it's interesting to see that even at different levels and so on, or different institutions or contexts, they seem to have the same descriptions. Yeah. So I'm interested to see what you encounter in your particular context. So all you have to do to leave a comment, I know some of you are commenting already, you will see a plus sign at the bottom of the screen, in this case, a yellow plus sign here. All right, or you can double click anywhere on the page and make your comment. So there's a plus sign at the bottom of the page right here, the bottom right side of the page. So you click on that plus sign and you can leave a comment in the pop-up window or page. So I'll give you some like about a minute again to do that before we move on. Good. So I'm seeing right. So we have some responses coming in. Marie said, young adults that are interested in the marine industry at home and abroad. Okay. Ayana said, young, eager individuals seeking careers in the science. No, sorry. Oh, that just shifted, right? Young, eager individuals seeking careers in the sciences. Okay, okay, good, good, good. Let's see who else. And while you're doing that, I'm just gonna make this visible in the course site. Let me just minimize this. And all right, so you would always be able to see it there. All right, so you don't have to worry about the links and so on that we have for this particular session. It's going to be there for all of the tools that we explore and so on. So and we'll go into Padlet in just a bit. So let's see some of the other responses we've gotten. Right, I see persons are still typing. Okay, good, good, good. Right, so we have some more responses coming in. Someone said second year students mainly more focused. Most are curious, more settled and intentional about their academic work. So you see the difference here where we have, it went from young, eager individuals seeking, I guess, bright-eyed individuals seeking a career in the sciences. And then we have another person who said, second year students mainly more focused, more curious, more settled and intentional about their academic work. I like you see the differences there, right? So you see, for example, in that case, the latter case, students may be a little older, more focused and strategic. And that's typical of adult learners. Typical of adult learners. Adult learners don't like to waste time. We invest time in what we know. We know the outcome, or we towards that would take us towards a particular goal or outcome. Yeah. Stephen said diverse teacher trainees with a variety of experience. You said that in the chat. Okay. No problem at all. Good. Anybody else? I see some others are typing. Think of prior knowledge. I know, and I'll give an example while you type there. I had in high school, I heard about chemistry long before I had to do it. So when I got to a particular, I think Form 3 or something of that sort, and chemistry was compulsory at that time, I didn't have the best attitude towards it. I came in knowing that this is extremely difficult. This is something I'm not gonna pass. This is something that I didn't particularly like at that time. Be on the periodic table and so on and so on. But yeah, and so I came in. What I'm trying to say is that I went into that class or that subject with preconceived notions that it was already difficult. It was already whatnot, and it was up to the teacher to some extent to change that perception. Yeah. And very often that's a responsibility we have. Sometimes students may come into our course with preconceived notions that it's either very easy and you're going to pass, so you don't have to apply yourself, you don't have to work, or it's very hard and onerous, and and then you want to leave students with wanting more, almost to the point where they become passionate in pursuing careers in the same field. Yeah. Someone else wrote, mix of students, So my teaching delivery is a combination of games and role play to keep the class engaged. I like what you said there, because it shows that you're taking more of a student-centered or learner-centered approach, which is good. We'll get into that in just a bit. All right. Okay, I see some others still typing, so I'll give you one more minute to sort of to wrap that up. And yeah. Okay. So the responses we got thus far, and I'll come back to this in just a bit, as well. But you get the idea. You see the vast variety, or the just in describing the students that you have. Yeah. We see in the couple responses we got the different ages, the different attention span, if you want to call it that as well. Some tend to be more playful, some tend to be a little more serious or focused. You have, so it's different demographics you're looking at here, and the qualities that go with some of them. Yeah. So I'll come back to this in just a bit. Just moving back to the PowerPoint. You can stay on this particular page because we're going to look at what we call Padlet. Now, this is a particular, what we just did is a platform called Padlet. So I'm going to digress in just a bit now. Padlet is a virtual wall, and the link and everything is made available in the course site for this particular session. But you don't have to go anywhere now because you're already on Padlet, right? And it's really you could call it a blank canvas or virtual wall where students can post different content, whether it's videos, web links, documents, GIFs. There's even an AI component, and I know you just did AI with Mr. Carrington a couple of weeks ago. So it's a range of media formats that can ultimately serve to create a form of an e-portfolio or compilation of content. So let me show you some of the features of Padlet. So, of course, you're catering to different types of learners at the very least. Those who are more visual, those who are more kinesthetic because they're doing things here. And I just saw another response there. Students just want to pass. True, that's so true. Cut and dry, and they want to be able to do that with the least bit of effort. It's all about the grade for some students, and that is, I see no lies there for a lot of them. But you know, as the educator, you have to take it beyond just them passing. You know what I mean? Because when you see they're like that, then they're not really going to be engaged, and they're only going to be engaged on a superficial level. And once they pass the course, they're probably not going to remember anything about it. So this is why engagement is so important, because you want to get meaningful, deep level engagement that they cannot help but be engrossed in the course, or be passionate about the course, or get excited about doing the course and the content therein. All right. And Padlet helps to do just that. Now, to start up a Padlet, so I want you to create a Padlet now. Now let me just say this: with the free account, you can create I think 3 to 5 Padlets, and you can collaborate with others on more Padlets. So even though you might have a limit on the free account of 3 to 5 Padlets, you can collaborate with many more persons, including your students, or students can share Padlets with you and so on. So as you're here, you would just see sign up at the top right corner. All right, so you click sign up. All right. And once you click sign up, you're going to be prompted to create an account. So you're going to have to state your username, which would be your email, and password. So let me know when you're getting through that. So you're already in number 1, and now we're on to number 2 in the list we have here. Create your account by using, you can use your, if you have a Gmail account, you can use sign up with Google, and you don't have to create an entirely new account. All right. If you have a Microsoft account as well, you can do the same. And I know you guys would have Microsoft 365, if I remember correctly. And so you can use your same login credentials. So it's not an additional set of login credentials you'll have to remember. Once you insert your email and password, you'll be prompted to via email. So you have to check that inbox, email inbox, for a verification email. All right, this is just an extra security measure that they know it's you and that it's not a hacker or anything of that sort. So let me know if you get that verification email, or if you've created your account already. Yeah. Right, account created. Very good, Ronald. Very good, Stephanie. Nice. Anybody else? Right, Chantal created and just use Google. Yeah, it's usually easier when you just click Google and you just put in your Gmail account and the password. And you got the verification email by chance? Okay, perfect. Even better. Dana, good. Stephanie, you're good. Sergio, you're done. Nice. If anyone is getting trouble, just you can use your mic, or you could just raise your hand in the icon there, and we'll definitely be happy to help. All right. Okay, so once you've done that, the next phase, when you go into Padlet now, you're gonna see a prompt. How will you be using Padlet? You definitely want to click as a teacher, right? As a teacher. So in other words, it makes it easy when you add it as a teacher. It allows you to share and right. So you did that already, Sergio. Oh, good. I like this group. Oh, all right, good. So most of you have done that already. And once you've done that, then Stephanie done. Nice. Okay, good. So once you've done that, you click make. Sorry, you would see click make at the top of the page. Sorry. Ronald done. Nice. So you click make, and of course you select a layout for your Padlet. And the layout you could always change. So for example, the layout I had in the Padlet with describing your teaching context, that was a layout that I use there just to lay things out like that. You could change it to a timeline. You could change it to, remember I mentioned the timeline when I spoke about the learning outcome with explaining, students will be able to explain how to purchase a high quality roti. Yeah, you can use the same platform to create that sort of timeline or step-by-step process. Yeah, you can have students do the same as well. So once you do that, you click make, and you have it will allow you to create a Padlet. You're going to see a blank wall and so on. So while you do that, let me just try to log in here. All right. And okay, so I just got a verification passcode. So let me just.
Hi, Justin. Sorry, I
Yes.
don't know. I'm not seeing the ability to raise my hands, but I used Google and it automatically just took me to select teacher, which I did, and then it takes you to creating your first Padlet with set a
Yes.
topic, add some posts. I think you mentioned some steps that I was not seeing.
Right. So once you got the verification, basically, I was saying that once you got the verification email,
Yeah, so I didn't even get all of that. It automatically took me to
right.
create
Some
Padlet.
persons encounter that. They just went straight into it, and that's perfectly fine.
Okay, cool.
Right. Dana is saying in the chat, it's you just go backwards and it will take you to your thing. The thing is, when you log back in, you're gonna get a verification email or passcode. So that's perfectly fine. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No, we're good. All right. So let's say I'm just going to Padlet here to show you, to demonstrate and whatnot. I'll be gonna use it, right? So, right. So you should see something, you'd see probably a page. Let's go make a Padlet. It's taking me to this. Okay, let's get straight to it, right? Let me just clear my screen a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna share this screen here. And you should see, right. So when you go to a Padlet, remember I said make and so on at the top and whatnot. So I already had this Padlet here, for example. And well, let's go. It's taking me through this. All right, okay, all right. All right, so let me just delete this. So once you have this, you're gonna see a page, let me go back to my dashboard. And we see this here. If I wanted to make another Padlet, all right, I can select a blank board or sandbox or whatnot. And the sandbox is just, you could see what that is like, examples and so on. And these are some of the different AI elements that you have. So if you need to create a lesson plan of some sort, a rubric. So these are some of the newer features in Padlet. In this instance, I just want to start from scratch. All right, or have a blank board. All right, and you're gonna see on the left side, sorry, the right side, what format or layout you'd like to choose. If it's a wall format, if it's a stream format, a timeline, as I mentioned, if it's a map, if it's a canvas, so any which way basically, or grid selection, a grid layout. So in this case, I just select the wall format for now. All right, and click done. Now you would see at the right side of your canvas, the menu that you have here. And let's just click on the ellipsis here. So you have some different things that you have here, right? So I'm taking you through the navigation of it. Now, you have also the settings button at the top here, but you also have it when you click on the ellipsis, the three dots at the bottom of the right side menu, the floating menu, and you click on settings. And this is where you're gonna tweak the look and feel of your Padlet. So you can give it a title. So let's say something like geography. You could give it whatever you want. Geography 101. Or let's say hydrology 101. in the description field, you can give the instructions that you want to give your students. So in my case, since it's about hydrology, explain the different components of the hydrological cycle. Right? And you could even give more specific what you call it, explanations here or instructions, using different media, explain the different components of the hydrological cycle. Yeah? So that's where you give the instructions, and you notice it's being changed on the actual wall on the left side. Yeah? Good. If you want, no, you don't have to change the icon or anything like that. You can leave it as is. Or you can upload something. It's up to you if you want to put, let's say, something that is appropriate for your particular Padlet wall. You don't have to do that part though. All right. So far, so good. You can just put a thumbs up if you're good so far before we go to the next segment. Very good. I don't know, I'm not hearing anybody, so okay, all good. Okay, good, nice. So the next part now, you would see the appearance. Remember I mentioned this is like the look and feel that we're going to be dealing with in the settings here. So in the appearance now, this is where we can change from a blank basic white canvas to something a little more attractive looking, I guess. So if you click on wallpaper, you would see a range of options. So you would see basic colors and hues that you could choose from at the very top of the menu. Then you're gonna see gradients. So it might have a little pink into green, or yellow into green kind of thing. Then you can change to textures. So these are little patterns and so on. All right, so for example, and it's changed. You could, if you want to see what it looks like, you click on it and it is applied immediately. All right, as a draft. So you see different patterns here, the textures and patterns. All right. Then you have different photos or backgrounds. Yeah. Then you have, I think at the very end, art illustrations. All right. Then I think you can add your own images. So let's say if it's something like a class image, a picture of the class or something of that sort, or something with the title of the course or whatnot, you can do that as well. So you can customize your own backdrop with an image that you might have on your saved on your desktop. You might want to draw something, use a web page. I recommend that you use a backdrop, whatever you do, whether it's something customized or from the collection here. Try to get a backdrop that is not very busy, because you don't want a backdrop that makes reading difficult. Yeah. So for me, I decided hydrology was the name of this particular wall, and I selected something with water in it. Yeah. Once you've done that, you would see at the top right side, save. That's right up here. And it's a pink button with save written in white. And so we're looking good so far, right? The other things could stay as is in terms of color scheme, font and font style or size, post size, that could stay as is. The format we already chose as wall, but we could change it if we need to. So remember we saw this earlier, right? So the canvas would be something that's connected, like if it's a process, or a timeline if it's a series of events that they need to connect, and that sort of thing. If it's a map, if it's geography, or something of that sort that requires that layout. But you could always change it where necessary. All right. The Padlet now gives you the option, and this is a more recent upgrade, where you in one wall you can make some posts group specific or some topics group specific. So in other words, not all the posts on this particular wall will be seen by everyone. Yeah. So case in point, group posts by section. If I enable that, you have section 1, section 2. Well, you can add a section as you see fit. Yes, the font size can be changed. So the font style, I shouldn't say font size, font style. So you have this here and next to font. It can be at the very, I usually leave it by default because it's easier for me to, well, I find it, I don't have much of an issue with the default font size of, the others look a little, the first one, Niagara looks a little, I find juvenile, but that's a personal taste, that's a personal preference, I should say. So that's perfectly fine, Cecilia. So I was saying that you could group posts by section. So you could have sections in your particular post or wall that if you want to have enable group work on one Padlet as opposed to across different Padlets. Yeah. The next thing is new posts should be first or last. I like to see posts first. So in other words, the newest post should be at the top of the page, as opposed to you having to scroll all the way down to see it at the end. After that, you can enable comments if you'd like. So if you want your students to be able to comment on each other's posts, they can do that as well. And because this has a social media element to it, like you have reactions. So whether it's a like, whether it's a rating, whether it's a star, whether it's a vote, you know, that sort of thing, you can enable that as well. Yeah. I also like to leave the author and timestamp enabled so I can see who posted what and when. Cecilia, I see your hand is raised. Go right ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. I was
Hi.
saying that if the most recent post come on top, wouldn't that interrupt if I was reading as you were before?
It varies. If you're using it in a synchronous context, for me, I think it's easier when I see it at the top. Because it depends on how. So, for example, the previous Padlet, I had the newest responses to show at the top because I've been using that Padlet wall for some years now. So to scroll all the way down would be kind of long. So I like to see it in a workshop like this. I like to see it at the top so I can I don't have to keep scrolling when a new post is made.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, but if you like it at the end of the post, that's perfect. At the end of the page, that's perfectly fine as well. So that's like I guess a preferential thing as well. Keep in mind, of course, the context within which it's used. Because I mean, we're still talking about instructional context, but you get the gist of it, right? Good. So let's go to moderation. Now, this is where, let's say if students, if you want to manage the post, now you would know your students if this is necessary or not. I generally enable it, but it's within this, there's a profanity filter. So if you want students to, you want to be able to gauge if students use profanity, it normally would allow you it would replace the profanity with an emoji, right? In other cases, if it is generally you want to be able to monitor what is going on and ensure that you approve before posts are made public, then you can do that as well. All right.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
It's kind of like before this one.
Okay.
So with the drag drop sort by option,
Yeah, trying to.
right above new post position.
Right.
Okay, so I noticed that drop down menu gives you options. So if I chose the option likes, it means I have to have the reactions to receive likes. Those two have to kind of coincide.
Not necessarily, but for example, if you want your post to be arranged in such a way based on likes or date published or subject or just random, that's totally fine. Now, when you keep in mind two things, let me say this. One, you could change this even when the wall is made public or persons post on it, you could always tweak it to suit. I like to drag and drop in the event that I want to emphasize something or I want to move things a particular way. But this part, I tend to leave it by default because I already selected the wall and specified that I want the first post at the top of the thing. So,
Okay.
yeah, so with that said, I don't have to drag and drop. Now, drag and drop means like when someone comments, they might be able to drag their posts to
And
the
put
top
it
of the
wherever.
page, and I find that if it's a large class especially, it could be a bit confusing for me. So I tend to leave it as default. So I can drag if need be, but I would still have the first post at the top of the page, so I can read in sequence basically.
Okay.
And not have to kind of skim through to see what was the date of which, and then be scrolling back and forth. Okay, and you don't have to create a custom URL, it's already created for you. All right. Now, once you save your Padlet, the settings, then you're good to go. All right. So all we have to do is click on this X here, and then persons can start typing. Now, if you want persons to type, you probably would need to share your Padlet. So to share your Padlet, again, we go to the three lines down here. We could do that, or we can just click this little, usually when you see this arrowhead, you know it's to share. All right. So if we click on that, we can add persons as collaborators. Remember I mentioned we could collaborate on posts, on Padlet walls, or we can share our Padlet. Now, at the very least, I wouldn't go too far down, but if you want to copy something, then you go to share, not copy, sorry, you want to share it, you go to share, and you can get a QR code, embed it on your website, or share via another app and so on. Now, if you want just the links, it's there, copy link to board. So in other words, the link to this Padlet, it's copied. See the notification there, right? And you can share this link in the chat so others can access it as well. So for example, I see Sergio, you posted your Padlet. So let me copy this link so it'll open in the same browser. All right. Ooh, I like this, Sergio. Ooh, I like this, Sergio. Very good. Very good. Now, to add content, I'll use Sergio's as a example because I like this. I don't know where you got this, but I like this. in your own words, tell me what is computer science.
I downloaded it.
You downloaded. There you go. So yeah, no, I like this. I tend to like things like this. So you notice he has the title here, Computer Science 101, and the instruction. In your own words, tell me what is computer science. Let's say I am a student in Sergio's course or class. All I have to do is click here by this plus sign. You would notice the plus sign turns to a pen, meaning that if you double click, you can add content. I could add content by just clicking on this once, or let me just close this off, or I can double click anywhere on the wall and this will pop up. Yeah. Now, what is this, you might ask? This is where you're going to post your content. So the subject, for example, would be computer science definition. All right. Or I could change the title if I want to at some point in time. But let's say for now, I'm going to do this, and I can post either a text-based definition, just what I think computer science is, to answer his question up there, or I can include some sort of media, right? So we see we see 4 basic things here, and then 12. If I click on 12, this is what the whole menu of attachments, possible attachments, comes up here. So I could take a GIF, all right? I'm using this as an example, and I could say computer science. I click search, and look what we have here, right? A range of GIFs. So let's say I wanted to use this, for example, and it's there. I can add a caption or add some sort of further definition about it. So I could say computer science is futuristic and fun. I'm just giving a low-end comment, right? Once I have that, I could add it. I could have added it as a caption. Either is fine. I could change the font color. Of course, you know, yellow and white is kind of, you're not going to be able to read that too well. So I like to keep it black for now. And then I click publish. And there it is. And Sergio, you could see it as well, right? Everything is in real time with this.
Yes, I can.
Nice. Now, if I wanted to add a different type of media, let's say, right, a closer look at ComSci. It's the same process. This time, however, I want to go into YouTube to pull a YouTube video. All right. And based on my topic, you notice the topic was there already, the subject, a closer look at ComSci. And look at the options we have here, pulling straight from YouTube. Right. And of course, there's no copyright infringement here. This is open source. And I have this here, short videos, a closer look at processing, Stanford University, computer science crash course, computer science preview. So if I select this, I could say ComSci, ComSci in a nutshell. And if I wanted it, you know, I could put whatever additional, I could publish this at a subsequent date and like a precursor, another precursor, pre-schedule. All right. Once I do that, publish. Right. So we see that there. So we see how to share a Padlet and how to comment on a Padlet and add media in a to a Padlet. Any other? I don't know. I only saw Sergio shared his. I use his as the example, but anyone else wants to share their Padlets?
Mine is boring, but I'll share.
Sure. No, yeah, and you could always delete these. You could always change the layout, the look and feel of it. You could, it's flexible. All right. And of course, to share the arrowhead right on the right side, and you copy link to clipboard, and then just paste it in the chat.
Sorry, how to do that again?
Sure, no problem. This arrow
Oh,
right,
that arrowhead. Okay.
yeah,
Sorry.
and then you click copy link to board, basically clipboard,
Uh,
and then you paste the link in the chat. It's that simple. Yeah.
copy link to board. Paste it in the chat.
You got my feedback, Justin?
I've just opened I just came back to mine, sorry.
Okay.
Let me see. I'm seeing, I thought I saw, you mean on yours or
Yeah,
on
on what you posted on my board, so I
okay,
give you
on yours,
feedback
yes.
on,
Let
yeah,
me go look
I
now.
give you feedback on it.
Excellent, nice. So this is thank you so much for that, Sergio. So look,
Okay.
Sergio was able to give feedback. Good job, Justin. And he gave a like. All right. So this is a good, you see, it could be a very interactive thing. Now, I'll show you two more things about this, and then we'll move on very quickly. I didn't expect to spend so much time on Padlet, but that's all right. But once you've done this now, you can embed this Padlet into your course site. So let's say if I wanted to make this Padlet available. Oh, I see Stephanie, you just let me copy. That's no problem. No, I'll go to it.
And then it's okay. Mine's a little.
No, that's perfectly fine. Good, Stephanie.
I was trying some stuff, to make it a little cool.
That's perfectly fine. And you did well. You did pretty good. I see that you use a template. Good. And right. So this ad is cool. All right. And you can always change the look and feel of it even after posts have been made. Right. Let me just, if I wanted to add content, let's say I wanted to add an image. All right. Let's see. Now you could also add video and audio and so on. I can pull from my Google Drive. I can add an image, as I mentioned. I can add music. I could add a web page, as you see here. All right. So let's say I want to add an image, and I could right, and I could pull that from here. The human anatomy, and look, I could pull that right there. A closer look at the human body. And then I publish. All right. Oh, no problem, Ronald. So you would see it. So let me show again. So I click on I double click anywhere on the page. You can do it from here. All right, which is add image, or you can go into the long way, which is image search. Yeah, it's very easy. All right. So once you've done that, everyone, the next thing you might probably want to embed this into your your Moodle course site, sorry. So we go back to share again. And Sergio, well, you know where I'm going with this, right? So, so you go to embed in your blog or website. This is right here. Blog or embed to your blog or website. And you would see the embed code. This right here. Now the embed code is a lot longer than the actual URL. So, and you'll see why, because you have like the dimensions of the frame when it's embedded in your website and so on. So if you go to copy embed code, all right, and let's say you go to your course site, All right, editing is turned on and everything. Let me just make sure, right? Editing is turned on. And all I'm gonna do is click add, insert a label. So I'm showing you both Padlet and Moodle as well. Insert a label. And right, so once we're here, you're gonna click on the second to last icon, which is the two, you would see the same icon, the toggle icon. For those of you who may not know, look at the best way to describe it is the arrowhead, right? Or the more than and less than sign. So you click on that. All right, let me just take this part off here, and you paste the embed code. Of many things you would see in the embed code, you would see width and height. So this is just a frame, how big the frame is going to be when it's converted, or on the course site, for example. Now I could go back I could click this again and show you exactly what it looks like, but let's see what it looks like in the course site. Yeah. So save and return to course. And here we see sorry, it's loading, and it's right here in the course site. Now, students now will not have to go to Padlet, or they don't have to create a Padlet account to post on this. So remember the Padlet I showed you earlier with learning context, describe your students? That's why it had so many responses, because I was able to embed it in my course site, and students just have to double click and post their comment. Right? And if I wanted to edit this, let's say I wanted to tweak this, let me just close this. I can edit to suit. All right. Yeah. And that's how you embed to your course site. Any questions on that?
So
Sergio, you're good?
is that so
Yes,
I was saying that this could make your discussion friends even more interesting.
Yes. Yes, yes. All right. And it's a good activity, I guess you might use it. Well, you tell me, guys, how would you use this in your particular teaching context?
For instance, you teach an assessment, and you want to get a perspective on assessment. You can get people to put in the different perspective on what they think assessment and the need for it and all of that.
Exactly, exactly. All right. Very good, very good. It's a good tool that you can use to even, let's say, students to have students introduce themselves, and to start a discussion, brainstorming, or to review a module even. All right, and that is perfectly fine as well. Yeah. So good job, good job. Any other questions on this particular tool?
It's very good for building and concept maps.
Yes, and collaboration as well. Now let me show you one thing as well. This is a very simple way that you can use. You can use this platform, sorry, to create very easy student portfolios, right? So a good thing with this is that, let me see if I get one that has a lot of content on it. So one sec. So Sergio, I know yours has just two posts on it, but I'll show you what I think. I should be able to use yours. Let me see. I think, yes, I can do it on this as well. So if I want, let's say Sergio and I collaborated on this, I can go into the same share menu. Remember, we looked at clipboard and we looked at the embed code. Now, in terms of exporting, if I wanted to export this as a PDF, look at what happens here. All right, I'm gonna click this. It would ask me if I want it as a slideshow, so you can have it. Let's say you created this and you want to have or you made it into a student project, and you want them to present on it now. They could create the slides, or you can create a handout of it, right? You could determine if you want it on legal or letter size. All right, let's say I want letter, page orientation vertical, and then I click generate, and look what happens. And so it generates a PDF, which can serve as a portfolio. Now, I know it only had 2 posts, but in this case, you get the general gist of it. Now, it's important to know that these links are also active in the PDF. So it's not dead links. So this is a YouTube video I pulled here, and with the link and everything, and it shows the feedback from Sergio, right? Just so you know. And if I click on this video, because this is a YouTube video, look at what happens. It takes me to the actual video. So you're not stealing anything. And this is the actual video.
Welcome to Crash Course Computer Science. So,
right? And that's another step to Padlet in that regard. So you could easily make a sort of report, if you want, even depending on the layout and so on, a portfolio, because you can have sections, you can have titles and so on in this portfolio, and it really records everything. Let's say at the end of the semester, you might have, or the end of the module, you might want students to have some of these notes, not just of notes that you produce from your lectures and so on, but their input, their definitions, their media, that whatever they create, whether it's original content or content they use from another platform. All right. Any questions on this? So far, so good? All right. Okay, so let's go very quickly. So you see the different ways, and we did explain how this can be used in terms of like an online discussion, among other things, of course. So that's perfectly fine. So we digressed for a little while, but it was really about a learner analysis we were looking at. And we did mention all of this: prior knowledge, demographics, the affective and social needs. So whether they like to work with each other, whether they have preconceived notions and so on. All right. So really the learner analysis is to really understand who you're teaching and other variables, the logistics. If you have a strong internet connection, of course, in a blended and online context, this is necessary. It's tantamount as well. All right. Even the time of your class session, if it's a synchronous session such as this, you need to be mindful of these things. So, if it's after lunch on a Friday afternoon, you're going to have to make it more engaging, hands-on, so persons are not lethargic and that sort of thing. Yeah. And a learner analysis, you could get that information from different platforms. So your registration platform, you would know, okay, the age of students, you would know if you do a sort of diagnostic test or an introductory activity, for example, using Padlet, let them introduce themselves. That's perfectly fine as well. You could even create a Google Slide document. Well, create a Google Slide and assign each slide to a student and let that student introduce himself or herself. I've done that. Well, I've given out some secrets, but I've done that in previous Cuttle classes as well. So and other courses as well. So there are different ways you could get that information about your students. So if I were to ask you, let's say, Chantal, what are some of the attitudes or prior knowledge even that you have observed in your students when they come to your class or your course?
Sorry,
Chantal?
could you repeat? Yeah, sorry, could you repeat the question? The last part, if
Sure.
you were to ask me, what was the?
what are some of the attitudes or prior knowledge that you, or preconceived notions that students tend to have when they first come to your course or class?
There's a lack of prior knowledge because I teach primarily about organizations, and I'm dealing with high school students that would not have interacted in that environment before. There is a lack of knowledge.
Right. That's a good thing. And now if you were teaching, now compare that to if you were teaching mature students who are working, who have that work experience and so on, then it would inform your instruction. Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Exactly. So this is why learner analysis is so important. It not only informs how fast or how quickly the pace of the lesson, but it informs the learning activities you incorporate. It informs the content that you cover. So for example, if it's persons who have never dealt with organizational behavior, for example, and in Chantal's case, then you might want to start like provide an orientation for them that is mandatory. Whereas if it's working students who are already coming with that prior knowledge, then you might want to have that orientation as an optional, something they could read on their own, and you don't have to start from the ground up. Yeah, you could just do a quick diagnostic test, a small quiz, a short quiz, or a poll, such as Poll Everywhere, which we looked at, and make that happen. Now, it's important once you understand who you're teaching, then you know how to engage them. All right, and that's what this graphic is all about in terms of engagement. You don't want to shoot in the dark and make a guesstimate of how to engage your learners, and then you miss the mark, right? So Schlechte is one of the, I don't want to say gurus, but probably a guru in engagement, student engagement, and so on. And his definition is that engagement is an active thing. It requires one to be not just not just in attendance, but also attentive. In other words, they focused. All right. And Schlechte, I keep saying Philip, but Schlechte identified 5 different levels of engagement. And you see them here. So I wouldn't go through all of them because they're there, but you really want to strive for the first one, which is engagement, which is which Schlechte defines as high attention and high commitment. All right. It means that the student is sometimes self-motivated. They find meaning in the learning activities and doing the courses, not just to pass a grade. And I know we spoke about that earlier, right? It's not to acquire a passing grade. If it is that the student is more focused about just passing the course, that would probably be in the vein of strategic compliance or ritual compliance, as we see here. So strategic compliance, the task has little inherent value. So they're really not just, you can be teaching up a storm and they're not really taking it on. They are just here to pass the course because they have to do this course to get their degree, right? And because of that, there's no retention. So I'll give you an example. One of my brothers, he did at high school the CSEC exam, and he got a distinction in mathematics. And mathematics wasn't my strongest subject back then. It still isn't, but anyways, but yeah, when I came to him to teach me, you know, he got a distinction as like the highest that you could get. But he couldn't teach me because he forgot everything. He didn't retain anything. He just did the subject to earn a distinction, but not enough to retain what he learned or to teach anybody else from it. He just learned it to pass the exam, and that was it. So that could probably be an example of strategic compliance. Yeah. And then of course it goes all the way to rebellion. So with a rebellious student, if you notice a student is very disruptive in your class, non-compliant, or is sometimes even disrespectful or confrontational, that kind of thing, then that is the lowest level, of engagement. You're not going to reach that student just like that. More than likely, it may be an indicator of something on a deeper level, psychologically or personally, that the student might be dealing with. And in such a case, you may consider, or I would strongly advise that some sort of intervention, or you get some additional help in dealing with that student and addressing his or her needs. Yeah, does that make sense? Because, I mean, let's face it, not everything you'll be able to deal with, yeah, at that moment or at that point in time. So you want to keep that in mind, yeah? Okay, so moving along, and I know, yes, Ayana, not a problem at all. I know we have a little time, we have some time left. Yeah, we have some time left, because I know it's supposed to finish at 4. So yes, so I want to make sure I'm not keeping you back. So we want to move now into learner-centered teaching. All right. Learner-centered or student-centered teaching is really, well, we made mention of it before. It's really where you get the student involved. And this is really at the highest level of retention, of learning, that kind of thing. So it's not just, remember I mentioned I don't like to just do all the talking and all the, it's a hands-on thing. That's what I meant. So it's a learner-centered approach. And a learner-centered approach looks something more like this, where we have active learning. So anytime you think that you find that you are doing more talking, like what I'm doing now, it's a passive approach. Whereas if I were to ask questions, then it would be more engaging. So for example, what would be a good question? Let's see. Stephanie, can you, or Ronald, anyone, can you identify an experience, a learning experience you had as a student, where something that you remember, even to this day, when you were a student?
You mean in terms of content or experience?
Both, perhaps. So what was your most
Okay.
memorable experience as a student?
I wouldn't say memorable experience. Okay, I wouldn't say good. Okay, I will say this. I remember taking organic chemistry, struggling the whole entire semester. And all of a sudden on the final exam, it clicked. Like literally, on the final, everything made sense. But it took the whole semester to get there.
It happens.
Okay.
It happens. Why do you think that happened?
I don't know. Coming down to the end, I used to be in a group with several students, and I was teaching them even though I was struggling. Like I knew more than they did, but I felt I knew nothing. So I don't know. I guess it just reinforced itself eventually, and I was vested in passing because failing was an option.
Right.
And it worked out.
Right. Well, clearly it worked out, right? Because you're here now. But you see what you said there? You were teaching other students. You know what that is right there? You were in that 90% area there, where you were doing something. So you were able to, it didn't make sense when you were just listening and reading, which is like over here. I don't know if you're seeing that. Because you only remember 10% of what you read, 20% of what you hear, and 30% of what you see. But then when you started teaching other students, you started making connections. And then by the time you reached the exam, you already retained certain things. You were creating or defining, you understand? So look at here, analyze, define, create. All of this is part of the higher order of thinking and learning. So by the time the exam reached, you already connected the dots, everything made sense because you were defining, you were evaluating, in other words, making connections, assessing things, analyzing things. So I know it's many years later, but now you see why you remembered it, right? I think someone else was, yes, go ahead.
Justin, if you want one of my memorable experiences.
Yes.
I remember in secondary school, I was doing a physics practical on the acceleration of free fall. But because I was a very good math student, we were supposed to plot L, which was the length of the pendulum in meters, against T squared, which was in science, and use the gradient of the graph to determine the acceleration of free fall.
Right.
But because as I said, because I was pretty good at maths, I reverse engineered the formula. And I got for all my L's, I determined what the T's would be, and I got a perfect value for the acceleration of free fall. So the physics teacher pulled me up. He said, Ronald, I don't understand how you get exactly 9.81. And he knew what I'd done. He knew exactly what I'd done.
Right. So you see what you did there, Ronald? So you were able to first of all, use your prior knowledge and your prior expertise in maths, and you were able to invert or reverse the whole process. In other words, what I'm saying is that you did something. You didn't just rely on what was told to you, what you read, what you heard, and so on. You applied whatever principles and so on, and you were able to in other words, you created a new approach. You see where it's going, right?
Because I just done, in mathematics, I just done changing the subject of the formula. So I just saw all my errors, I just reversed the formula, and I found my t's that correspond, and I got a perfect graph.
Exactly. So you remembered it more, and you remembered and retained all of this because of you did it. You applied basically what your knowledge and so on, and that's where being innovative in a blended and online context is all about in terms of instructional strategies, because we know in the online environment or the blended environment, it's very easy to become distracted with all the technology stuff. So let's say if you are on your phone, by the time or laptop, by the time you get a notification from Facebook or Instagram or a text message from somebody or a phone call, even if it's on your phone, those are distractions. So when you're teaching in this environment, online or blended context, you want to make sure that it's hands-on. One, because it improves retention. Two, it improves engagement. Well, engagement, then retention. And then three, it minimizes distractions. And of course, it caters to, it's a very easy or sure way to cater to the needs of your students. So have you ever been in an online class or teaching an online class and you somehow realize that students are there but not there? Have you ever, no? Yeah, no? And you wouldn't know unless maybe you call their names or you ask a question or you ask them to do something. Right, Ronald, you know what I'm talking about. So this is why you have to keep it very hands-on and learner-centered, so they continue to be engaged, right? And oh, by the way, let me pause for a minute. Do you want to take a 5-minute break, or do you want to continue? I know we're supposed to end at 4. I think we got a little carried away with Padlet, but Ronald cheated in that experiment. Ronald, you saw what Marie said, right? All right, so do you want a quick 5-minute break, or are you good to just go on for the next 45 minutes?
Keep going.
Okay, no problem.
I'm good.
Okay, good. Well, that's good. I guess you guys are engaged, right? Ronald said I was good at both subjects. Yes, Dina, thank you so much for that. Unlock your device. Oh, I think my look, AI is trying to pick up on, see, Gemini again. There you go. Trying to act up. So anyway, so let me just make sure. Right. So when it comes to online or blended learning, you want to make sure that it caters to the needs of your learners. All right. Else it really isn't going to resonate with them. Else you're not going to get that engagement. You're not going to reach them, as it will. So when it comes to that, you want to adopt two, I want to say, frameworks of instruction. One is universal design for learning, and the other one is differentiated instruction. Now, both deal with, they're both learner-centered approaches. They both deal with the catering to the needs of your learners, the diverse needs of your learners, as opposed to just taking things with one approach, one strategy, one way to reach persons, one set of persons that you're reaching. So for example, if you do a basic traditional lecture without any, let's say, any sort of games or any sort of activities or any sort of hands-on something, then you're only catering to a small percentage, think of it, a small percentage of your learners, right? Those who could read or those who would memorize based on what you say or what they read, which, as we just saw, only accounts for 10%, right? Whereas if you cater to persons who you have different stimuli, so you cater to those who something might resonate in the visual side of things, something might resonate when they do something. something might resonate when they read something, and that sort of thing. So you cater to as many students as possible, or all of their learning needs as possible. And the best way to do that, of course, is through some sort of through technology, because you have the visual with technology, you have the hands-on experience with technology, among other things, and the collaborative experiences and so on. So UDL and DI, or Universal Design for Learning, and differentiated instruction are two frameworks that help in this regard, and you see the differences and similarities here. I know Ronald might like this Venn diagram to some extent, right? So, so Universal Design for Learning might look like you creating different media for instruction, meaning that you might give a text-based instruction, then you might give a graphic, then you or process timeline something, or so you do that. Differentiated instruction might look a similar way. So it might be something where you got feedback from a learner, and then you were able to make adjustments to the lesson. Yeah. And then you did a review, or they performed poorly at a quiz. And so what you decided to do was revise the topic and provide using different approaches, a practice test, for example, those sorts of things. Yeah. So when you combine both frameworks, you kind of get the best outcome, similar to blended that combines face-to-face and online. All right. So think of it like that. And the best way to cater to those things would be create different teaching aids and activities for students. Teaching aids meaning, let's say PowerPoint, a graphic, whatever it might be, a video even. And activities meaning, let's say, not just a practice quiz, but maybe you give them something to create. As Chantal and Stephanie and Ronald mentioned. I'll give an example I had as well with geography, and that's why even though, yes, educational technology and e-learning and that sort of thing is a specialization, if I didn't go down that route, I would probably also I did do it for a while, geography as well. I used to tutor for CSEC and A-level geography students, because geography, I didn't like it initially. Same thing with English literature. And when I was able to do things to make it real for me. So for example, going on geography field trips. I know we mentioned a field trip for Roti. Going on geography field trips and seeing the different settlement patterns and the different coastal environments and these different vegetation and so on, made me fall in love with geography to the point where now I can teach students different things in geography, different cloud cover and cloud types and so on, and when rain is about to fall, when, all these different things. Likewise with English literature. Now, if I tell you how I fell in love with literature, you'd be funny. Genevieve, are you still here? If Genevieve,
I'm
are you
waiting
here?
to hear how you fell in love with literature.
So I know this is being recorded, but I mean, just saying it. So I remember particularly Shakespeare, reading Shakespeare texts and so on, his plays, and in the lower forms, I didn't particularly like it, or like them. And when I got to, I think it was around Form 4, we even had like abridged versions of like Macbeth and so on, and it just didn't resonate with me at that time. But we got to Form 4, not Macbeth, some other one of his plays and so on. Anyways, we got to Form 4, and when I read this particular play, I think it was, what was it, boy? Not Much Ado About Nothing, not All's Well That Ends Well. Was it All's Well That Ends Well? I can't remember, but Ronald said Teaming Up a True. No, not that one. I remember that one. But it was not one of his popular plays. But, the whole language of Shakespeare and so on, it was, at that time, I didn't really like it. But then when I was able to make it became real to me when I can't believe I'm saying this, Genevieve. When I looked at a particular television show, and I noticed that a lot of what we call bacchanal was also in these Shakespeare, well, that particular Shakespeare play. Who fell in love with who, but who was really in love with somebody else. And I'll just full disclosure, it was Jerry Springer, right? Of all shows, right? I just happened to stumble on the Jerry Springer show, and I was like, but wait, this, I read this somewhere. But the point I'm trying to make is, I know, right? I wasn't a huge fan of the show, but I remember just looking at one episode, and I was like, I read this somewhere, like, who was in love with who, and then they, and whatnot. And I mean, the show was a different spin on it, but the basic principles, I was able to make those connections. And so after that, then I was able to appreciate Shakespearean plays because they were able to, I acknowledge it and appreciated it for for it being applicable to real life and real life people, real life situations and the human condition and all those different things that I eventually studied in Shakespearean literature. But so hopefully, Genevieve, you could understand the rationale behind that, right? So of course, after a while, when I read Taming of the Shrew and Othello and Much Ado About Nothing and all these different things, I was able to make certain connections on that level. And because it became real to me, to the point where it was even in my conversations with friends and so on, I started appreciating it at that age, Form 4, Form 5, Form A levels and so on. And I eventually studied even at the master's level. So you see how far it could go. And then we even did plays in Shakespearean plays and then tried to reappropriate them into local context and all these different things. So it definitely became real to me. So instructional strategies that we could incorporate in an online or blended context, these are some of them here. So you have game-based instruction, you have collaborative, and all that you see here. All right. And of course, synchronous and asynchronous, which we looked at earlier. But let me say this, synchronous or asynchronous lectures should never stand on their own. You definitely want to incorporate some of the others around there. So the collaborative approach, the problem-based approach, the flipped approach. Anyone knows what the flipped approach is all about? Don't worry, you don't have to say now, because we're going to an activity where we will explore this. It's called Fast Facts. Now, Fast Facts is a quick activity, not very long. You're going to be put into groups, and let me just enable the groups. And you're going to be put into groups, and let me just explain the instructions. So you're going to be put into groups, and for each group, you have, so group 1, you're going to be active learning. Group 2, you're going to be flipped approach. Group 3, you're going to be cooperative learning. Group 4, you're going to be inductive teaching and learning. And group 5, experiential learning. All right. So you're going to take about 10 minutes roughly to find 6 different things about your assigned strategy. All right. Make sense? And then now you could put it on it would be nice if you put it on a PowerPoint slide, make it a little competitive. And we go from there. So let me see, I'm gonna create the breakout rooms. It's 5. So I'm just gonna do it randomly. Now it's a basic web, you could search online and get the facts for your thing. So in Ivana, Marva, Maurice, Ronald, Stephanie, and Wendy, you guys are gonna do, oh, I didn't specify the number of persons, and I think I did it randomly. Okay, good. You guys are gonna do active learning. All right. Good. Alicia, Dana, Everson, and everybody in the group with them, Patricia and Pearline and so on, you guys are gonna do the flipped approach. All right. You got that? So anybody who's in a group with Alicia or Dana Lewis, Everson, Patricia, Pearline, and so on, I see someone, C. Abraham, you guys are gonna do the flipped approach. Anyone who's in a group with Corrine, Ronald Massicott, Sharon, Stefan, Stephen, you guys are gonna go into cooperative learning. Yeah? Anyone who's in a group with Sergio, Abigail, Chantal, Genevieve, and Kim, you guys are gonna be doing inductive teaching and learning. Yeah? And anyone who's in a group with Cecilia, Lynette, Orville, I see HLSCC IT. You guys are gonna do experiential learning. All right. Any you guys want me to go over those delegations? So far, so good? Okay, go over. Okay.
I stepped out for a while though.
All right. So let me reiterate and go over the delegations. So it's gonna be room 1, which will deal with active learning. That will be Ivana, Marva, Maurice, Ronald Brunton, Stephanie, Wendy, right? Once you're in a group with Ivana, you're definitely going to be doing active learning. For those of you in a group with Alicia, Dana Louise, Everson, Patricia, Perline, and so on, you guys are going to be doing the flipped approach. For anyone in a group with Corinne, Ronald Massacott, Sharon Augustine, I think I saw Sharon somewhere before, but anyway, Stephen Joseph, you guys are going to do cooperative learning. All right. You could probably take a snapshot of the slide just so you could remember too. Anyone who's in a group with Sergio, Abigail, Chantal, Genevieve, or Kim, you guys are gonna do inductive teaching and learning. And for those of you in a group with Cecilia, Lynette, Orville, and HLSCC IT, you guys are gonna do experiential learning. All right. So, okay, Corinne, well, I guess persons who are, Corinne, you're trying to pull out on, you're trying a thing, man. But okay, I know you guys could do it. It's just a 10 minutes. And when you come back, you just tell the rest of us, you could have some points on a slideshow and we wrap up soon after that. All right? Good. Thank you so much for that, Ronald, putting this slideshow in the chat. So I'm gonna open the breakout rooms in a bit. Breakout rooms at let me just take the time. 60 seconds, right? Okay, I think that should be good. I'll manually remove, let me just put the time so you guys. So in 10 minutes, we can enable that. All right. Any questions there? So you have 10 minutes. So by 3:33 or 3:34, you should be back in the main room. Any questions before we go forward? Yeah? Okay, great. So make sure you download the image in the chat, the screenshot in the chat. And we can go now. So you should see the option on your screen to join your, right? So Sergio is in group 4, he joined. Right. Wendy, you're in group 1, room 1. Alicia, you're in group 2. Abigail, you're in group 4. And Cecilia, are you there? I see you're still in the main room here. Cecilia? All right, so.
Chris?
Group one is
Somebody said
ready.
pick a
Number
number.
one, here's number one.
I like
Yeah,
that.
that's why it's called group one, huh? So
All right.
First things first.
First things first. I love the competitive nature. That's exactly what I wanted to see. All right, so let's go at group one, active learning, and that's a group with I think Ivana, Marva, Maurice, Ronald, Stephanie, I believe. Yeah.
Yes, so I'm presenting.
Okay, great. Let me just give you. Who was that who just spoke? Is that
Stephanie.
Stephanie? Okay, let me just make you a co-host so you could.
We needed to put this in PowerPoint.
You don't have to, but just.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna just speak.
Okay, great. You go right ahead.
Okay, so our 6 key facts. This approach is a learner-centered approach. It usually activates your higher learning centers so that synthesis, analysis, create range. Some key features include engagement through participation, so a lot of hands-on problem solving type of activities. It's usually designed to ensure that there's opportunity for reflection as well as providing feedback. You tend to have deeper long-term learning through active learning. Some common strategies include things like think, pair, share, flip classroom, and other things. Those are all facts.
Excellent, excellent. I was just gonna put a clap emoji in the chat. Very good, group one. Very good. Quite thorough actually, and well laid out. I mean, you didn't have the visual, but that's perfectly fine. About active learning, and it's student-centered. It's engaging. It improves engagement, and retention. And I like that you gave some examples of it as well. All right. Very good. Group two. Take it away.
Again, I was just blessed with members from my department, excluding one. Anyhow, all right. So the flipped approach. What we did is we actually looked at an example of how we could facilitate such instructional method. So we looked at the possibility of having the students read or actually work on a case such as Enron, and what that would require of them is to read the case. Obviously, they will take it home, do the necessary research. Also, we would want them to work together in groups. So the activity would require them to first research, read, then come together as a group, apply the questions, and the questions we came up with would be what controls were violated, what can enable such a calamity to be avoided in the future. In answering those questions, they would have to plan, obviously, their approach and how they would, one, answer the questions, but also how they would present it. And then finally, make recommendations based on their findings from all that they would have done collectively. So that's how we view the flipped approach, that it would have been very engaging and would have required them to build upon various skills from the individual level to also working as a team.
Nice, nice, very good. I like that. I like that. So, I like that you took what you call it, not a one-dimensional approach. You showed, okay, working in teams and individual approaches and so on. Very good. Nicely done. Group three, sorry. Group three had
cooperative approach.
Yes. Okay, go right ahead.
Okay.
Do you need to share your screen?
There'll be first of all, we'll probably begin with what they call the preparation phase, which is sort of like asynchronous, in the sense that the students will be like divided into small groups, and they would be assigned research topics. So in those small groups, each student, for example, will be given specific roles. Example, one student could be a researcher, one could be a presenter, one could be assigned an editor, one could be assigned a liaison between all three, that sort of thing, to ensure that you have individual participation and accountability to make sure that everybody actually is cooperating and giving their inputs. Group members, they then collaborate using, they may or may not, if they choose to, collaborate using online tools, the different online tools that are available, whether they want to use Google Documents or other research tools that they may share in different formats. They could share it using the different platforms that are used for sharing documents, like Teams or Cloud or whatever device, online device they would like to use for sharing the information that they have collated. And then you'd have the interactive phase, which would be a sort of a synchronous approach. So it would be during like a live online session. The students would probably come together, or they'll be placed into breakout rooms on platforms like Teams. Microsoft Teams would be or even Zoom. I happen to have a bias towards Teams, where they would discuss their findings. They would collate the ideas that manifested themselves, analyze them, synthesize them, and then the final project would be brought together and for a face-to-face virtual reaction that really promotes the teamwork and what the interpersonal relationship that went into producing the whatever the project was.
Nice.
And then, of course, there'll be an element, having done that presentation, there'll be room for feedback where the groups would come, they would present their work to the class during a live session based on all the input that they had put together.
Excellent. Very good, group 3. I see you all came out. You all came out strong, boy, because even I think group 2 as well, because you guys, I like the way you folded your explanation of the 6 facts into like an example of sort, yeah? And
also, the other good thing about the cooperative approach is that it affords the how would I put it? It incorporates peer review. You know, it really gives the opportunity for students that are able to evaluate their own selves and other students.
Yes, and that's important, eh?
Very.
That's important.
Okay, and finally, Doc, we said what we're doing right now is an example of cooperative learning, you know. So the activity you give us to do right now is just an example of cooperative learning, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, that was gonna be, well, I have a slide following all of this to kind of bring it. You jumped the gun, man. But no, you hit the nail on the head. What you guys just did was cooperative learning as well, right? So I like the approach you took where you folded it into different activities and the step-by-step process and how technologies can fit into there. You know, the thing about technology, when we think of blended or online learning, sometimes people tend to think that it's all about technology, but really the pedagogy, you can't never there's a saying from the consortium of learning, never put technology ahead of pedagogy, right? Or andragogy in this sense. So you definitely want to have the teaching and learning principles on point, and then technology is just a tool that helps facilitate or elevate what you've already planned. All right, thank you so much for that, group 3. Let's move on to group 4 very quickly with Sergio, Abigail, Chantal, Genevieve, and Kim. And they have inductive teaching and learning.
Oh, sorry. Can I share the screen?
Sure. Let me see. Who is that?
Sergio.
Sergio? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so group 4, you all coming out. You all. Okay, all right, group 4. All right, I like this. All right, Sergio, I made you a co-host, so you go right ahead.
Okay.
You know, when I saw the members in group 4, I should have known,
So you can see my screen?
Oh, let me stop sharing. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Okay, you go right ahead. I'm seeing your, yes, your Padlet. Okay.
Yeah. Seeing that you said
Okay,
PowerPoint, but
group four.
you said PowerPoint, but we didn't want to do that on the Padlet. I shared that link, and all of us collaborated in the Padlet one time.
I
So
like that. I like
we're
that. Very good.
utilizing what you showed us.
Uh,
Yeah, as you see how we kind of laid it out here, we have one of the Padlet right there, and it has a video. But we have definition. So inductive teaching and learning activities according to Prince and Felder, right? So it's saying inductive teaching and learning activities prompt students to generate knowledge through inquiry, reasoning, observation, or experience rather than receive it through direct instruction. I think that you can make the comparison here instead of being a sage and stage, by just giving out, divulging, um, um, you know, knowledge, quote unquote, knowledge to the students. You're getting them to be more active by being, with these examples of being in inquiry and reasoning and observation. And so we have an example here, as you see, Chantel. Chantel,
Yes.
you wanna
Yes, by
explain
all
that?
means.
Explain that, Chantel.
So just to be really quick, we were just thinking of the fact that we come from different disciplines. So based on if it's relevant to what you're teaching, you could actually utilize a case study, present a scenario, and have students be prompted with questions to try to determine, well, what are the things that exist? So if I were to give a business student a case study, I'll ask them to, based on the knowledge that you already have, try to determine was the type of business involved, was it business issues that are present, how to resolve it. And the learning takes place by them being able to do that analysis and explain, well, or justify this is how they came to the conclusion. So just to show how, and it could also be, of course, collaborative. It could be in a face-to-face session because we do have labs at our institution where persons could log on and do this at the same time. Or it could be something that they could do in an asynchronous fashion.
Excellent. Okay. It's a tag team.
Yeah, tag teaming. I don't think we need to show the video or anything, right? No.
Oh, no, you don't have
It's
to.
gonna
But
be
you
too
can
long.
share the link in the chat if you'd like.
Yeah,
You can even
actually, the link to my Padlet is in the chat, so.
All right. Very good, group 4. Very good. Dino said tag teaming too. I'm laughing at that one. Yeah, professional boy. Okay, nice. Very good.
Let me stop sharing now. Yeah.
And thank you so much for that, group 4. And group 5. I think that is just Lynette and HLSCC IT. I know it's a small group, but let me see what you guys can, wanna present us or teach us. Go right ahead.
Good afternoon. So our group couldn't meet because we had issues, but I'm gonna go ahead and just highlight a couple of things about the experiential learning model. The experiential learning model is literally as the base word in that term, experiential experience. And it has 5 different cycles or steps in this cycle. The first one is experience, where participants engage in some sort of activity, some sort of learning activity. They then share or review on what occurred in that activity. They process how they actually perform the activity. Then they make connections between the activity and real life. And then there's the last stage, which is the application stage. Some examples of experiential learning could be things like case studies, field trips, experiments, group projects, simulations. All of these fall under the category of experiential learning. So it's allowing the learner the opportunity to do in order to make connections with the abstract material that they might learn the theory of.
Excellent. Very good. I'm quite impressed with by all the presentations. Thank you so much, Group 5. Let me give a round of applause to, I don't have the sound effect right now, but definitely, I'm quite impressed with how thorough each presentation or how thorough each group did their stuff. Very commendable. Thank you so much for that. And you guys hit the nail on the head, and you notice they seem to be overlapping, these different approaches. Yeah, they all are hands-on, they're all student-centered, they're all engaging, they're all instructional strategies that facilitate improve retention and facilitate learning on a deep level. We have just a synopsis here, and included in this should be the flipped approach. And let me say something about the flipped approach as well while you go through this table here. The flipped approach is sometimes subsumed as a blended approach. And I'll tell you why, because sometimes when you meet face-to-face, or even if it's in an online context, you give students the readings and so on to do independently. And when they come in class, they engage in activities that based on the readings, basically. And it gives them an opportunity to do some of the other things you see here, the cooperative learning, the inductive teaching and learning, the experiential learning. So think of the flipped approach as combining both a face-to-face and an online approach to some extent. And then in some cases, within a blended context, it combines synchronous with asynchronous. Yeah. So all of these teaching methods facilitate, like I said, engagement, improve retention, deep level learning, and they also they edify the teaching and learning experience for both you and your students, because you learn from students as well. I see Dana posted a case on Enron PowerPoint. I don't know if Dana, you want to elaborate on that?
No, it's just we had actually prepared the PowerPoint, but I just went ahead and presented without it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look.
Since everybody is,
Group 5 stepping up to not to be outdone, Group 5. Okay.
Yes.
Nicely done. Oh, I see we have some persons who, okay, right. So they should be coming in now. Yes, okay. So good job, everyone. Excellent job on the presentations and the fast facts. What stood out to you in this activity we just did, this fast facts activity? What are some things that you noticed? I think Stephen alluded to one or two of them. Anything you could pinpoint? Just reflect on that activity. And what are some of the things that you noticed?
Well, I mean, you have that engagement. I mean, you're talking about giving us that activity to do. That's what you mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
so I mean, like, see how you're delivering here synchronously. You're not just there talking to us, but you have had all of these activities prepared, and so that you could spit them out bit by bit, and then get the students engaged doing that.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. And Marie said, need a good leader. So, and you notice I didn't tell anybody who was leading and who was, I left that up to the group dynamic for you to decide. So I didn't have to be too prescriptive. And at the same time, we were able to use a collaborative approach, a hands-on active learning approach. We remember I highlighted WebQuest as an approach as well. In one of the previous slides, we use Zoom breakout rooms. And in some cases, you share screen, group 4, yeah? And so because of that, learning and engagement were both maximized. And you probably remember more about what you just did than if I were to just explain it to you. If I just said it, you probably wouldn't remember all of that, but you definitely remember the one that you worked on. So, for example, Sergio, you may, or Genevieve, you might remember working on inductive teaching and learning or whatnot, and that sort of thing. So, and you have that research and that knowledge that you can fold into your teaching practice. All right. So good job, everyone. Good job. And just to, I know we made mention of Moodle throughout the session. We know that there are different avenues you could engage your students, and I didn't have to go through these because you already mentioned most of them. The discussion forum, the assignment activity. Now you remember you can also have group discussion fora, or group assignments. So let's say it's a project. Students can submit as a group. So you could put them into groups, just as we did with Padlet. The quiz activity, it can be a practice quiz or a formal assessment quiz. The glossary, that's where students come up with definitions for different concepts. That's also an activity in Moodle as well. Sharing content such as web links or blogs or games, links to games, such as you would see in the workshop, the course site for the workshop. I provided a list of technology tools that you can explore on your own. And if you need any sort of support with that, you can definitely send me an email. I have no problem providing any resources or meeting with any of you to provide that support. In a Zoom session, we looked at breakout rooms, as we just did. There are also different polls you can use, but I would recommend using Poll Everywhere, which is what we looked at, and it's in the course site as well. Annotations. Let me take a minute to go through annotations. Now, annotations, you should see it on your screen. You should see a button at the bottom of your screen with annotate. Are you seeing annotate anywhere at the bottom of your screen?
Yeah, it's just above the microphone.
Right. So click on annotate. And let's say you wanted to, you have a graphic on an illustration on your slide. So let's say we could use the same example, the water cycle. I could create that, I could put that image on the slide and ask students to label that graphic, the different elements of the water cycle, the precipitation, the condensation, the evaporation, that sort of thing. And so they can do it either by inserting text, right? So I will ask you, for example, now to put your name anywhere on this current slide. So and you could change the text, you could change the font color. So let me just change that to now you would see at the right, well in my case the left side, I don't know if you could see it there, but you would see on the left side you can change your font color. So I posted Justin, Sergio posted right there. Maurice, I don't know if you want to post your name. Kim, you drew your name, Kim, okay. Stephen drew his name as well. If you want to type it as in a text, oh, Patricia, you're not seeing it. It's right by the microphone, I believe. It should be near to your microphone, the annotate button. So you click on annotate.
I don't see that button, you know.
No?
All I see above my microphone is a pen.
Yeah, that's
right,
it. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
just click on the pen.
Yeah.
Right. Ronald, I like the dialect, can't see it. Did you find it? It's a pen icon on your near to your microphone. Cecilia, I see your name. Ronald, I see your initials. So this is a way that you can, and Genevieve is putting stars. So this is another way, another easy way that you can engage your students. You can, like I said, you could post, you could put a graphic, let's say an image. So if you're doing English literature, you might post an auditorium or a theater. And they have to now label the different parts of the theater: upstage, downstairs, downstage, stage right, stage left, the pit, the etc. etc. If it's in the medical sciences, I don't know if you have anyone in medical sciences here or related fields, you might have them. Oh, we do have with physiology and so on, so they could label the different parts of the human body, that sort of thing. Somebody say what? So right in Zoom itself, you can engage students. Good question, Kim. I know, I think Sergio said he's a big fan of, Sergio Stephen said he's a big fan of Teams. I think Teams has it, but it might be a little more difficult to find for the average person. So, and I'll have to verify myself as well, because I lean more towards Zoom now than Teams. But definitely you see how easy it is to do it in Teams. And so, yeah, so you have, and if you want to clean everything, of course, you can just click the dustbin icon and clear the entire board and that sort of thing. So you see how this can be used in your context, right? And if you want to stop students from doing so, you can certainly take off annotations. All right. So if I were to do this, I could easily clear the board, clear all drawings, or clear my drawings. I just want to clear all, and that's it. All right. And I could disable it if it is students start to get, I could disable it annotation for others if I wanted to. But I know you guys are good students, so I know you're not gonna keep drawing on the board, right?
Hey, Justin, I look up for Kim. Yeah, I'm seeing that it has. I never use it, but it has the annotation in Teams.
Right. Yes, I use it already in Teams. I just couldn't remember where to find it. So I just think it's because I use Zoom more often now. Even Blackboard at one point in time. But yes, it is in Teams. It is in Teams. I was saying that it was there, but I don't know exactly where it is. Sergio, I don't know if you could tell the rest of the team where it may be located.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I never use it myself, so but I looked it up here, and so I could just check it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it's, if I'm at least back then, this was like at least within the past year and a half. It's somewhere you would see it in the at the top where you would normally try to go and share a screen or share a window. You should see it somewhere up there. But
yeah, that's what it's saying.
pinpoint
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, it's saying up in the top.
Right. Yeah. And Cecilia, I'm seeing in the chat. What app did you use? Oh, Poll Everywhere. Poll Everywhere. It's in the course site as well. So you can definitely check out Poll Everywhere and model it, I guess, in a similar way as I used it. If we have some time at the end, I could probably show you that as well. But I'm just trying to wrap up as I'm just watching time and I don't want to keep you back, right? So, but there's a link to it in the course site, and there's a description of what it can do, including the add-ons to your PowerPoint and so on. So like I didn't have to, you notice I didn't have to go to a separate window to use Poll Everywhere. All I had to do is I integrated it into my PowerPoint because it has a sort of app or plugin, if you want to call it that, that works with PowerPoint. So you could add it as an additional slide or additional slides to your PowerPoint, and you don't have to switch between windows. You just provide a response link to your students, and that's it. And they could be word clouds, open-ended answers, open-ended questions, multiple choice, etc. Even games.
Yeah, and they're poll add-ins and Teams also.
Right, there you go. Remember, Teams is almost like is very much like what you call it, Zoom. So you have polls in both Zoom and in Teams. I would recommend that you use Poll Everywhere and integrate it into your PowerPoint. So that way, even if you happen to present outside of Teams or outside of Zoom, if you use any platform, you don't have to go and create a poll all over again. You have it embedded in your PowerPoint through Poll Everywhere. And that, so for example, when we were planning for this session, I didn't have to worry about whether I was using Zoom or Teams or Blackboard Collaborate or Google Meet and so on. I had it in the PowerPoint, so it was less, I didn't have to think about that. These are some other apps, some other platforms that you can use. One group mentioned case studies. We looked at Poll Everywhere in terms of the end user interface. Kahoot, which most of you know, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and Jeopardy. So these are like simulations of games and so on from the game shows. All right. And of course, these are definitions, which are all in the course site. So you don't have to worry about these here. but the links and so on are also in the course sites, as well as their descriptions. Yeah. In terms of some of the strategies that we looked at earlier, collaborative, well, you know what Padlet can do. Office 365, you're already using that. Google Apps, that's also an alternative. Zoom breakout rooms, you also have Teams that you could have students collaborate in teams. I think one group mentioned that. I think group two or three mentioned that, and that's perfectly fine. In game-based learning, like I said, you have Jeopardy, Kahoot, even Poll Everywhere, which is, all of these are in the course site. Project-based, you have ChatGPT, which you probably know you looked at in Gemini and Copilot and so on, which you looked at in the previous session with Mr. Carrington. Bubbleless is a mind mapping software. So if you need to create graphics that show steps and processes or relational things, relationships between different things, Bubbleless is a platform that can do that. Of course, Zoom and Moodle. All right. When teaching in the online or blended environment, these are 5 tips I just want to remind you of. You want to make sure that you make it relevant. You make it relevant, meaning that it resonates with students and your learners and so on. So, for example, you want to use contemporary examples or case studies. I remember there was a time I was teaching English language, and I used there was this lady, this actress, a local actress, her character name was Philomena, and Philomena used a lot of dialects and Creole and so on, and I used that video to teach particular things in that course. So, but it provided a sense of a little bit of humor, but it was also something that they could identify with, not just the language, the character and the actress, right? Make it participatory, hands-on, active learning. Make it interactive, so collaborative and that sort of thing. Make it fun. You could put a thumbs up if you had fun during this session. Hopefully you did. And make it meaningful, memorable. Remember, you want to maximize retention. You want to maximize. Oh, we put in stars too. And so once you make it, once you have these tips, it becomes more impactful, and therefore enhance the teaching and learning process. Any questions by chance? And thank you for the thumbs up. Most definitely appreciate it. And I'm happy you had fun and we were able to learn a couple things along the way. Not just technology tools such as Padlet, Poll Everywhere, Zoom annotations, and so on, but also principles and teaching strategies as well, the game-based learning, the collaborative learning, the inductive teaching and learning, and flipped approaches, and so on. Any questions or additional questions? I know we were asking along the way, but it wasn't my fault, Maurice, that last name. I often get questions on how it's spelled or how it's pronounced. Usually there are different ways to pronounce it. The normal English way, I guess, is Zephyrin. The actual pronunciation is Zephyrin. So either is fine with me, but it was given to me, if that answers your question. You're most welcome, Sergio. So definitely you'll probably be hearing from me with regard to any sort of feedback and so on. Remember, you need support. It's always good when you're teaching in the online or blended environment that you have support. All right. Even if it's another teacher, just to kind of like a peer teach or co-teach situation, and to get that feedback as well. Or an IT specialist or someone who can help in some form or fashion. All right. Once again, thank you. Of course, this is my email address. If you need to contact me for any, support or advice, I'll be happy to help. As always, keep it collaborative, creative, and fun. All right.
All right, Justin, thank you so much for your presentation as you wrap up.
You're most
Thanks on behalf of the college. I think your presentation was extremely engaging. We learned a lot in the session today. And of course, a lot of the content is still available in the Moodle core shell. And so I'm encouraging persons to go in there. Even if some of your colleagues may have missed this session, they can still access the material. This is the third of these webinars that we've had for the year, for this academic term, and we have 2 more scheduled in February and March of next year. Those are the 5 that we're lucky to have. So I want to thank all members of the faculty and staff who joined us today. It was a really engaging session. I think all 3 sessions were really engaging, and we look forward to the 2 more. You know, I hope everyone enjoyed the weekend as we wrap up this academic term and we head into the examination period. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. And have a great day and a weekend.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Adios.